Assistant Attorney General for the State of Florida, the Chief of Litigation for the Florida Department of Labor and Employment Security, and Special Counsel to the Florida Department of Corrections. She holds a BA from Smith College and a JD from the University of Notre Dame Law School. Welcome, Ms. Miller. Glad that you're with us. Bill Hendricks has worked for the Dow Chemical Company since 1989 and has been active in the company's Gay, Lesbian, and Allies at Dow, which is GLAD, the acronym, network almost since its inception in 2000. Mr. Hendricks has made presentations on LGBT topics at the Out and Equal Conference and for local employee resource groups. He also serves on the board of the Indiana Youth Group, a local LGBT youth advocacy agency. Mr. Hendricks holds a PhD from Iowa State University. Welcome. It's Dr. Hendricks, I guess it should be then, right? Welcome. Glenn Levy. Did I pronounce your name correctly, Mr. Levy? Levy, excuse me. Glenn Levy is Senior Counsel and Senior Vice President for Marriage Litigation for the Alliance Defense Fund. Before joining the ADF, Mr. Levy practiced litigation matters such as securities fraud, antitrust, and tax law. He also worked for 2 years as senior law clerk to the Honorable John L. Coffey, the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit. Mr. Levy is a graduate of the Harvard Law School, where he served as executive editor of the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy. Welcome, Mr. Levy. We're glad that you're with us. Sabrina Marcus Taraboletti. Did I get that right? Okay. Worked for 23 years as a space shuttle aeronautics engineer with a NASA contractor at the Kennedy Space Center. Ms. Taraboletti currently works for the Florida Department of Transportation. She earned her undergraduate degree from SUNY Maritime College, earning a Coast Guard license to be a merchant marine officer. Welcome, Ms. Taraboletti. Glad you're with us. And finally, last but not least, Shannon Miller is legal director for the National Center for Lesbian Rights, one of the nation's leading advocacy organizations for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. Also serves on the American Bar Association Commission on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, and holds a JD from the finest law school in America, the Cornell Law School, and an honorary degree from the City University of the New York School of Law. I say that because I'm hopelessly biased, but also inscrutably accurate. In front of you, you will see a panel of lights. This is so that we can keep people's testimony under some time constraints and get to questions from the members of the committee. Your written statements will be accepted without objection to the record in their entirety. As far as your oral statements are concerned, we'd ask you to limit them to 5 minutes. When the green light goes on, you should begin speaking. When the yellow light appears, it means you have 1 minute, and we'd ask you to summarize your oral remarks. And when the red light goes on, we'd ask you to stop so we can move on to the next person. And with that, we will begin, Colonel, with you, and we welcome you to the subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to appear and testify here today. My name is Diane Schroer, Colonel, U.S. Army retired, and I am a transgender woman. I grew up in Chicago as David Schroer with 2 older brothers in the most normal of loving families. I entered the U.S. Army through ROTC as a second lieutenant immediately following graduation from Northern Illinois University in 1978. I completed Ranger and Airborne School, and in 1987 I was an honor graduate of the U.S. Army Special Forces Qualification Course. I served 16 years in Special Forces, including tours as a detachment commander, company commander, and battalion commander, accumulating 450 parachute jumps. I participated in combat operations in Panama and Haiti, as well as operational missions in the Middle East, Central America, Africa, and Europe. Additionally, I initiated humanitarian demining operations in most of Southern Africa. At U.S. Special Operations Command, I orchestrated the Program Objective Memorandum, or POM, reviewing 5,000 program lines covering all aspects of special operations for 4 years. I knew every unit, piece of equipment, operation, exercise, development program, and construction project where every dollar was supposed to be spent and where it actually was spent. Following 9/11, I was selected to organize and direct a classified 120-person interagency organization responsible for all Department of Defense operations against the country's most significant terrorist threats and all long-term planning for the global war on terrorism. After almost 2 years of successful operations, with 25 years in the Army, 12 of those in command positions, I retired in January 2004. Cumulatively, the U.S. government had spent 30 years and several $1 million educating me and perfecting my experience in the fields of insurgency and counterterrorism. I currently run a small independent consulting company that has done work for the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Coast Guard, the National Guard, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, focused on homeland security and maritime high-risk counterterrorism operations. I possess a top-secret, special compartmented information-capable security clearance, which was updated without issue in July of 2007. I am here today because in fall 2004, I applied and interviewed for the position of Specialist in Terrorism and International Crime with the Congressional Research Service of the Library of Congress. In December, I was told I had been selected for the position, and after some rapid salary negotiations, I accepted the job. At the time I applied for the position, I was in the process of my gender transition from Dave to Diane, although still legally David, and therefore applied as David. When I was offered the job at CRS in December 2004, I felt it would cause less confusion all around if I simply started work as Diane. So I invited my future supervisor to lunch so I could tell her about my plans and help her ensure everything went smoothly. I met my future supervisor at her office, and she introduced me to several new colleagues. At lunch, she spoke at length on my new responsibilities involving preparing, publishing, and informing members about the critical issues surrounding terrorism and homeland security. Midway through lunch, I mentioned a personal item that I wished to discuss. I asked her if she knew what it meant to be transgender. I explained that I had a female gender identity and was going to be living full-time as a female. My intent was to start when I commenced work at CRS. I knew that whether I was David or Diane, I would provide a wealth of background knowledge and superb research support to the Congress. I had truly felt that my future supervisor at CRS would feel the same way. Yet as we parted company following lunch, she mentioned that I had given her a lot to think about. The following day, she called and said that after a long and sleepless night, she decided I was not a good fit for the library. In 24 hours, I had gone from a welcome addition to the staff to someone who was not a good fit. As we used to say, hero to zero in 24 hours. I enlisted the assistance of the ACLU, and in June of 2005, they filed suit in Federal Circuit Court against the Library of Congress. In its legal papers, the library has claimed it didn't hire me because I would lose my colleagues in the special operations community. Ironically, these are precisely the people who have been second only to my family as my staunchest supporters. The library has claimed that it could not hire me because it was concerned I would lose my security clearance, yet it was recently renewed without issue. The library has claimed that it could not hire me because I would have no credibility with members, yet I testify in front of this committee here today. In summary, I hope that every day for the call to come from the library saying, we've made a tremendous mistake. I am ready and able to serve this country once again, and I look forward to do so. Thank you.